So I'm back with Atlantic Chase by GMT Games. Here we are in this first solitaire scenario called Raiders of the North Atlantic, and the British had just won the initiative, carrying on from where we left off, or to be more precise, the Germans had just failed to seize the initiative after a naval search out here in the mid-Atlantic by this British task force, here represented by these segments here. The British performed time-lapse. They did another search. They got another shadowing result. The German task force cannot have more than one evasive manoeuvres marker. They didn't spend theirs, so they just retained their evasive manoeuvres. The British performed time lapse, and then the German player, that's us, did manage to seize the initiative. We rolled an 8 with a +1 from the tally initiative track, gave us 9. We seized the initiative, and it's now us to act. We're back in this position where, well, we've got an incoming British task force, which could have anything from a destroyer squadron in it to some heavy cruiser, battle cruiser, and a light cruiser. It could be difficult for us, given that the Deutschland is a powerful ship, but it doesn't want to be facing that kind of firepower. So, or even 2 heavy cruisers would be problematic for us in all likelihood. We might fight off 2 heavy cruisers, but a battle cruiser, heavy cruiser, and light cruiser we certainly wouldn't. But then some destroyers we might well take care of. Who knows? So we have a number of options. We could try and carry out our mission here, so we could try and do a naval search ourselves against this convoy. We could extend out over here and see if we could have any impact on either convoy, or we could try again with the Graf Spee. I'm tempted to do a naval search here and hope that we can retain the initiative, that the British don't get the initiative and we get to do something else. I think that's probably our best bet at the moment. Although I do, given that this task force has moved out of its zone up here where it was in the North Sea, we now just have 3 heavy cruisers to worry about up off Bergen if we do want to try and sneak the Graf Spee out into play. I say only 3 heavy cruisers. We couldn't or wouldn't want to get up into a stand-up trading of blows with those 3 heavy cruisers. However, that is only 1 task force rather than 1 and a coordinating and air support. So we'd rather have bad weather as well, so the air support couldn't fly, but we're not getting any weather changes and we're not doing very well with the initiative. Anyway, let's see. I reckon we're going to do the naval search here first, and then see what our options are after that. So let's do a naval search. The trajectory total is 4 for the British and 2 for us, which is 6. There are no modifiers for air or coordination or anything else. The British have got an airbase within 2 hexes, but the negative modifier is 0 at 2 hex range, so that doesn't have an impact. So we're just going to roll our dice, and we're going to get a 7, and a 7 on the 5 to 9 column is a shadowing result, and that would be a pain in the arse and give them an evasive manoeuvres marker themselves, but they have more than 3 segments in length. We can't remove this one, we can't remove others that are attached to it, so we have to have 3 segments, so clearly that one gets removed, and we've narrowed down their possible location like that. We now have to perform time lapse, so that means that we have to turn ourselves into a station here, and now the British try and seize the initiative by rolling a 9. And they've got a 6, so we maintain the initiative and we add the 1 to the tally track there for the British. And now the trajectory length would be 3, so we could do another naval search there. And that has moved us down a column on the naval search table, so we'd now be on the 0 to 4, and that pretty much guarantees us the worst we would get would be a contact marker added, which would give us I think +4 on a very slow target next time. So that's good, and it's much more likely that we end up with a station and a contact marker, and it's possible that we get this red means I think it means a sort of skirmish combat, which I think means we just get 1 round of combat. So let's try another naval search with, as I say, a trajectory total now of 3, and we've got a 4. That is the terrible result for us. We just get the contact marker, we don't even turn them into a station. So we add a contact marker here to this British trajectory there. Well, that's awful. Now we perform time lapse while our fleet's a station, so it doesn't do that. And now the British again attempt to seize the initiative. Rolling 2 dice +1, and they get a 4. +1 is 5, and we keep the initiative, but they move up to +2. I think we're going to try this naval search again. We've now got a contact marker on them, and if we check the impact of that contact marker on a very slow, it is +4, so we can't now get that 4 result, so we're going to do another naval search in there with +4 modifier, and this time we roll a 12. Why couldn't we get that last time? Anyway, 12 +4 is 16. Here on the naval search gives us the red eye and the station marker, and the red eye, the correct name for that is skirmish. If the active task force is faster than the target, which we are, the active player may initiate a limited battle. Players' ships start in their respective far zones and you play 1 round of battle. So we are going to skirmish with this convoy. So we will first of all place the convoy down as a station in the hex. We have a contact marker with it on it. So that's good. So the next thing that happens is that because we're faster, we're medium speed and they're very slow, we will get to fight a single round of naval combat, which we will illustrate very quickly now, but I'll set it up first. So here we are with the forces on the battle board. You can see we've got the Deutschland here in the far zone and the convoy we're fighting here in the far zone. They usually fight 2 or 3 rounds of battle, but 3 in good weather and 2 in bad weather, but because this is a skirmish we only get 1 round of fighting. The range table is down here. You can see far, far, far near, far close, and so on. We are far and far, so we are firing at each other at extreme range, and you can see that the convoy's firepower extreme range is not applicable, so they're not going to fire back. We are firing with a +1 due to our extreme range, and extreme range basically, you can see on the firing table here, at extreme range you throw 3 dice and take the lowest 2, long you 2 dice, short 2 dice, 2 dice point blank, 3, and roll 3 and take the highest 2. So we're rolling 3 dice, we're taking the lowest 2. We're adding +1 for our gunnery, for the guns on the ship, and we are comparing them to this table here. This table here. 8 or less is a miss, 9 to 12 causes a hit, 13 plus causes 2 hits. The target is very slow, so we're getting a +1 for that. Convoys can't lay smoke, so there's no difference for that, and our gun value is +1. So we've got +2 for it being slow, and +1 for our gun value is +3. So we're rolling 3 dice, lowest 2, +3, and we're trying to cause hits. So we've got a 5, a 4 and a 2, and I think we've had a good result there because the lowest 2 are the 4 and the 2. That's a 6. Our modifiers are +3, 1 from our gun value, 2 for it being very slow is 9, and 9 gives us a hit result. So we're putting a hit on that convoy. Here's the hit markers. That goes on the convoy, and that convoy has now taken a hit, and we'll put it back over here on the British force display with its hit on it, and we will go back on our own German force display up here. And that was the first thing that felt like it had gone tremendously well for the for the Kriegsmarine in this whole scenario. We have a contact marker still on there. I think after you come out of battle, you have to have a contact marker on both combatants. I think everyone comes out with a contact marker. I'm going to check that and then carry on. So that was correct. At the end of battle, both sides are marked with contact markers, representing much greater information about their presence and course and situation than was previously known. And then what happens is both sides vie for initiative, which is a d6 each. Highest wins. The British, with the tally marker in the +2 zone, though, have a +2 on their die roll, so we'll see what happens. And so that's a 4 for the British and a 1 for the Germans, and initiative moves to the British side. I use the tally marker, I flip it over, so initiative is with the one who isn't tallying initiative in the way I work it. So the Germans are currently on the initiative tally, that means British have initiative, and they are going to roll on here. They have still not completed with any merchants, and they keep rolling A's and B's, which are very aggressive actions, and not C's, which are convoy actions. Let's see what they get this time. As I say that, they roll a 6. 6 is C, and that means a selected task force attempts to complete. We haven't seen this happen before. In Clyde, Liverpool or Portsmouth, whichever is closer, the task force may need to perform a trajectory action first. If prevented from performing completion due to intel markers or trajectory length, they pass instead to reduce their trajectory length. So it says completion action, removed damaged British ships. If this empties a task force, remove it, then select a British task force. Okay. So we're going to remove the task force that we just damaged. This is gone. So I think that counts as a +1 for us. I perhaps ought to keep tally somewhere, but I don't think I'm going to forget that a British convoy was destroyed any more than I'm going to forget that that the Widow was sunk. So we remove this, all this from the map, and then we're going to select a British convoy, and there's only one now available. and we are then going to try and complete with this. We can't firstly due to the trajectory length, it's longer than 6, and secondly due to the intel marker, which prevents it anyway. So we are simply going to pass which allows us to perform time lapse, and we take off our two segments there, and now you can see this would be short enough to do completion because it's 6 in length, but the intel marker will prevent that. And so yeah, initiative comes back to the German player because the British passed in order to do that convoy action, and so it's now over to us. And we've got some options now. We've got some interesting options. So the first interesting option would be to run a trajectory out over here to where this intel marker is, and then perform a signals action, which would force the convoy to turn into a station where the intel marker is. So I think that's going to be what we're going to do. We're going to forget about the Grafspecht for now. We're going to do a trajectory over there, which doesn't cause a change in initiative, and then we're going to do a signals action, which replaces the intel marker with the station. Yeah. And if we have a trajectory in the target hex, we could then perform time lapse, and that would be amazing. Okay, let's do this. So the first thing we do is run our trajectory over here, and the Deutschland goes merrily off, raiding across the North Atlantic over here, drops into here. So that's our trajectory action. That gets rid of that. Then we're going to perform a signals action, and if we come down here, what does this do? And it says it allows the active player to transform an enemy trajectory into a task force station. The target trajectory must have an intel marker attached. The active player selects an enemy task force trajectory. One or more of its segments must have an intel marker. The active player selects one of those markers. The active player is not required to have a stealth force or task force in the target hex. And then select an intel marker, replace it with a task force station, then remove all the other intel markers and segments belonging to the target trajectory. So this is marvellous from our point of view. So we now replace that with that, and we collect up all the rest of these trajectory markers, and we remove them out of play. Try and pick them up in a nice group like that. Okay. After a signals action, the inactive player is allowed a seize initiative opportunity R, but because we had a trajectory in there, we can perform time lapse. Only one trajectory is allowed to do this, but that's great because it means we can get rid of that contact marker that was bedeviling us from that earlier battle, and it allows us to move further away from that pesky British task force, which is trying to cause us problems. So we now have this situation, and at this point the British try and seize the initiative. They've got no bonuses on their tally, so they get a 6 and they do not seize the initiative from us. So the British tally goes up to +1. you know, when things switched over, I think we should have made a weather roll as well. That's just, the weather has not changed all game. We've still got good weather. You know, when the weather goes bad, I'd be more tempted to try and get the Grafspee out and get it out through past Scarpa Flow and the Faroes, while the British Air is less capable of intercepting and messing around with us and adding lots of nasty modifiers to the capabilities of the British Home Fleet. Anyway, we're still in good weather, as we have been for the whole game. So now we want to try and engage that station. So I think we can do an engage action. We don't have to naval search because an enemy task force that's a station, the target must be a station. Yeah, we can simply calculate the trajectory total, roll 2d6, apply the modifiers. Alright, I'm just going to check that I'm doing this absolutely correctly off camera and then come back. Okay, this is indeed correct. The intel marker's gone because we used it to turn the task force into a station. This is the active task force. This is what we're trying to engage. You can see we have a trajectory length of 3. There are no modifiers from air. No one's got, this is, Gibraltar's too far away to have a negative effect. We haven't got any air power. There's no effect from coordination because no one else has got anything in the area to do that. And we have got the target force has got no evasive manoeuvres, and we have no contact markers anywhere. So it's a flat die roll on the engage table here. On the 1 to 3 column. So let's just give it a roll. So you can see on an 8 we're going to have a skirmish. On a 9 we're going to be closing in, and because we're faster that will result in battle, battle, battle. We can't get a surprise result because there's no modifiers. So basically an 8 is going to give us a round of battle. A 9 plus is going to give us a full battle. Anything less is going to be a miss. So let's give this a go. And we've got a 5, and we have failed to bring that convoy to battle. So our engagement attempt has failed. Now let's just see what happens on a failure. We perform time lapse, and then both sides vie for initiative, so we will end up as a station back over here where we were getting hassled by the air units out of Gibraltar before. Well, we're back here again. This time there is a station in here with us though for us to take a pop out, and now we vie for initiative. And that's German 6 and a British 1 + 1 is 2, and the Germans keep the initiative. Okay, we'll move the tally marker up 1 and we'll have a think about what we want to do here. So the most obvious thing to do here is to try and re-engage this convoy that we've got with our task force, and I think that's our best bet here. So we're going to try the engage action. There are no modifiers on it, but the trajectory total is 0, so we're just rolling 2 dice. We could try and get the Grafspee into the game, but right now we've got a target with us. Let's try and take advantage. We get a 9 on the dice. That's a good roll because over here on the engage table, that means that we get a battle. The weather is good, so we'll have 3 rounds of battle against that merchant. and that's probably very poor news for the convoy. So let's grab the convoy, put it in the far zone, and we didn't get a surprise result, so we can't do anything other than also go in the far zone. I'll leave our evasive manoeuvres marker up there, that's still quite useful. So we're getting 3 rounds of battle. I think the convoy will try and break off, but we'll see whether that's possible. Let's just read through what might happen here, and I'll come back with this fight. Okay, as is fairly obvious, the British convoy will attempt to break away from us. Here, let's grab 3 dice. So the first round of battle, the British aren't going to get to fire. This is going to be because they have no gunnery at extreme range. At extreme range we have 3 dice, they're very slow, that's +2. We have +1 for our gunnery factors, we have 3 dice +3, taking the lowest 2. That's an extremely good result, so we ignore the 6, we've got a 7 +3 is 10 on the gunnery table. That inflicts a hit. So let's drop a hit onto the convoy up there. Okay, the next thing that happens is torpedoes. We don't have any torpedo. Well, we have torpedoes, but you have to be in the close zone here to launch them. In the manoeuvre step, ships may move to an adjacent zone, show its slowest ships first. The British will not attempt to move nearer to us, and we will move into the near zone to try and close the range. In the breakaway step, the British will try and break away, and they will roll 2 dice. We will modify it by some fairly straightforward modifiers, and they need 9+. So I don't know if they're on the board breakaway. They are on the board down here. Great. You can see they need 9 or more. We've moved into the near zone, so they've got a -1. They are the slowest ship, so they've got -2, but they are in the far zone, and they're the only British ships are in the far zone, so they've got +2. So they've got a net 0, and they're trying to get 9 or more to break away, and they get a 5 and fail. So we're going to round 2 of the battle, and we're back into gunnery. We're now in the near zone, and they are in the far zone, and that makes the range long. They don't have any gunnery factors at long range. They're still NA. Ours are still +1 and +2. For them being very slow is a +3, but now at long range we're not rolling 3 dice and taking the worst 2, we're simply rolling 2 dice. So we've got 2 dice +3 now, and we've got 2, 5, 8, and 8 does not cause any damage. That's a splash result. Great. Now we get the torpedo step, we get the manoeuvre step. They will attempt to break off, but we can move into this close zone because we have torpedoes, and we might quite like to try and use them against that convoy. And now they will try and break off on a 9+. They get a 2. Dearie me. So we go into the final round of battle. It should be noted that in the advanced combat rules you can have 4 rounds of battle. I'm not using the advanced battle rules. I've not even read them. They look pretty groovy from the counters that I've seen, all kinds of faults, failure counters and all kinds of stuff, but I'm just using the basic battle rules. Okay, we move into the final round. So the range, they are in the far zone and we are now in the close zone. That means the range is still long. So the British will not get to fire. We will get 2 dice +3 as before. We get a 6 +3 is 9, and we know for a fact that that will inflict another hit on the convoy. That's 2 hits, and we can now try and launch torpedoes as well, and this isn't something I've done before, so I have no idea how it works. Torpedo attack. Each may attack only once during a game. To remember which ships, we mark them with a nose torpedo, that's fine. Players simultaneously. Okay. We can't target a ship in the far zone, so there'd be no point in doing that. Okay, we've had all our attacks then, and that's going to end the battle. We've managed to put 2 hits on that convoy, which will, in time, result in it being removed from the game. We know that because that's what happened to the last convoy that took damage. So I think that ends the battle, and it's just a question of what happens now. I think we vie for initiative, if I remember rightly. Both of our ships get returned to the battle board. The British are on the stripe. The Germans are up there, and we both should have a contact marker attached to us because we've both been in battle. So there's a British contact marker and a German contact marker, and at that point we would perform time lapse for our task force, but we don't need to, and so we go into a vie for initiative with a +2 on the British die roll, and that's British initiative. And we carry on at this point. Let's see what they're going to do. Okay, there's been a destroyed convoy, so they're now on the 1 column. Because I'm reading this British action section and it says roll a die and find the result in the row corresponding to the number of successful British completion actions and or destroyed convoys. And there's been a destroyed convoy. So they are going to do 6. And that is a C, that's a completion action. And that says if this remove damaged British ships, if this empties a task force, remove it. Then select a British task force with a convoy. If no convoy in play, treat as convoy British action table result instead. Which says down here, we remove damaged British ships. If there's a British task force with a convoy in it playing, no convoy. If there's no task force with a convoy already in play, create a new task force and place a convoy in it. Also place a light cruiser in it. Then roll a die to determine where to place the new task force. Africa or Halifax. Okay, let's do some of this then and get a new, looks like a new British task force is coming onto the board. Okay, so here we have a new British task force on board. That's a convoy with the light cruiser Aurora with it, running from Africa up to Portsmouth. The rules say give it the shortest possible route, but they also say in general the AI will always try and avoid picking up intel markers, and if they'd run the trajectory through our station here, the German station here, they would have ended up with an intel marker in there that they didn't want, so they've worked around that into Portsmouth. And the rules down here say once we have the new task force has performed its trajectory action to Portsmouth or Clyde Liverpool, then IC, which means change initiative. So the initiative. There's no dice roll, there's an automatic change of initiative back to the German player. And do you know what? I don't think I made a weather roll when I changed the initiative to the British and made that convoy roll. So let's make a change weather roll for the British. A 5 doesn't change the weather, and now let's make one for the Germans coming back. And another 5 doesn't change the weather. We've had no weather changes at all. We've had non-stop good weather. So in good weather, we are back with the Germans, and we have now got some decisions to make. So firstly, that contact marker on the Deutschland is potentially dangerous. So I'd quite like to lose that. Obviously, I'd like to try and pin down this convoy. And also, I'd be quite interested in now that we've destroyed a couple of disrupted a couple of convoys. At least we've scored points for them, but disrupted a couple of convoys, put 3 hits on them. I'd be quite interested in getting over to this RV counter, this rendezvous, and seeing what happens when we join forces with that. I'm still very wary of that British task force up there on patrol, which could suddenly take an interest in us, and I don't want to be a station in range of air and so on when they come looking for us. So what we're going to do, I think, as the German player, is run ourselves a trajectory which crosses paths with the convoy, but also heads out over to that rendezvous point there. We'll take that station off, and then I think we will do a naval search in essentially in here. At that point there, we'll do a naval search cutting across that convoy route and see what we get. We've got no positive modifiers, so there are no negative modifiers for air, or this air can't have any impact. There's no evasive manoeuvres, there's no contact markers on what we're searching for, there's no coordination. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hexes in length for the trajectory, and we've got an 8. Let's have a look then. Naval search, 12 hexes in length. We've rolled an 8. That gives us the shadowing result, where we can reduce the convoy to 3 segments. So we could go, we can't remove this one, we've got to keep 3, so we could keep these 3. I think we'll do that. So we'll take off all these convoy segments, trajectory segments up there, drop these back down into the sort of force pull down here with all the rest of the British markers. And yeah, that was a successful search. We've cut across in front of the convoy. We know it's still not made it up past the sort of top of Spain, Portugal. And now, after a naval search, I think we perform time lapse, which we also wanted to do. So that allows us to remove these segments and the contact marker that I didn't want plaguing us. We've got one segment left there, but that doesn't turn us into a station. You only become a station when you remove your last segment. But that's okay. That's cool. And now the British can attempt to seize the initiative. So they roll 2 dice. And they get a 6 plus nothing. We put the tally initiative marker up 1, and we've still got the initiative here. I'm going to have another attempt to bring the Graf Spee in at this point. I'm feeling like that could be interesting. Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's give it a go. Let's try and bring the Graf Spee out of reinforcements. And finally, the Graf Spee is ready. We've got a 10 using the reorganise action, and we don't cede any initiative for doing this, so that's also great. So let's get the Graf Spee. Yep. I'll put it in a new task force. That one there that was vacated by the sunk Vidder. So there is its station marker up in Kiel. Cool. Okay. Well, the trouble with having the Graf Spee on the map is the Graf Spee can get sunk. We want to try and get out past those 3 cruisers. We're going to have to run the gauntlet a little bit here. Sorry, pointing the camera the wrong way. We're going to have to run the gauntlet a little bit here to get out. So I'm going to have a quick think and come back with a decision. So there you can see I've created a route for the Graf Spee out of Kiel. You can see I've had to add an intel marker to our trajectory where it passes through this British blockade of the Norfolk, Suffolk and Newcastle. So we've now got intel here. Now if we were to perform time lapse now, we could remove 3 segments because we are a medium speed ship, and medium speed ships can remove 3. In bad weather you can remove a D6 worth of segments, but there's a thing called intel limit, and if you've got an intel marker attached you can only remove the if you're removing a trajectory segment with an intel marker, you can only remove 1 intel marker, and you can only remove a total of this number of segments. So if you're very slow, you can remove the one segment with the intel marker. As we're medium, we can remove 2, but 2 doesn't remove the intel marker because it would be a middle section. We can't just split our trajectory up. You can only remove markers from the segments from the end. So we can't remove 3, and removing 2 doesn't remove the intel marker. So that shows you how the Intel A is a great threat, because the British could just turn us straight into a station here with a signals action and then engage us with their cruisers, which I'm expecting to happen but hoping doesn't. But that has to be something we plan for, or at least take into account when making this move. But it also slows us down because we can't just remove these 3 segments. We have to remove 2 and then do what's called intel limit as to remove this one and that one, and then we've broken out into the North Sea. it's now time to mention, now that we've got 2 ships with trajectories on the board, it's now worth mentioning what our friend here, Raider, can do. His ability as a leader is to allow us to perform, if we pass, we can do an all pass action, and that means we can do an all pass with all of our ships. Normally when you pass, you perform time lapse, i.e. reduce the length of one trajectory, but we can all pass using Raider, and we can reduce the lengths of all our trajectories. And that's what we want to do, because I'm interested in trying to rendezvous down here, so that all pass will allow us to become a station in there with that rendezvous marker, and it will also allow us, as we've discussed, to remove 2 segments here but not the 3rd because it's got an intel marker attached to it. I'm not sure the all pass action allows us to rendezvous. I think we have to do a specific, it's a fueling check when you have initiative. Yes, we need the initiative to rendezvous. It's a fueling check that we can make. It's a special action over here in the book, but it says a fueling check can't happen during a pass action's time lapse, which is what we've just done. We've done an all pass, so we've time lapsed due to passing. And what that does is automatically moves the initiative over to the British side, and we'll see what their response is going to be to the new threat of the Grafspeck. Okay, so having passed the initiative as the Germans and done our all pass action, I rolled for the British and they rolled a 1. They are now on this 2+ column. Since we've destroyed 2 convoys, we're now in the 2+ zone. 1 on there is an F action, and that means the French take an action, and the French fleet, the 2 battle cruisers and the light cruiser, try to bring to battle the German task force nearest a British convoy. Well, there's only 1 British convoy on the board, that's this one heading up from Africa at the moment. If there hadn't been one, they'd have created one from out of Gibraltar, so coming out of the Mediterranean presumably. So, but as it happens, there is one here. So the German task force nearest a British convoy is the Deutschland here, and so the French try and bring it to battle. Now, because it's a station, the French can simply plot a trajectory straight out to it, take a trajectory action straight out to it, and then try and engage action, because that allows them to initiate a battle against an enemy station. So they are going to engage. Common modifiers apply, and at this point we will use our evasive manoeuvres token, because I do not want to get caught by 2 battle cruisers, 2 extremely potent French fast battle cruisers. That's a no thank you. So we will use our evasive action on this roll, and that is going to give us, well, let's have a look, evasive manoeuvre in good weather. Did we roll for a weather change when we passed over to the French? I think we did. Anyway, in good weather it's a -1. The trajectory total is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what happens here. There's no air support, there's no coordination, and there's no contact markers. So just a -1 on this dice roll for the French. I should be rolling the red dice. For the Allied player, they get an 8. -1 is a 7. On the engage table, trajectory length of 6, they get a 7. That is a miss. Phew. Okay, that's good. That has another effect, I think. If the task force had an intel marker, initiative changes hands. That's interesting. They don't have an intel marker. Actually, that isn't true. When they laid a trajectory into here, because I'm a station, they picked up an intel marker there. And now because they've missed, initiative changes hands. See, there's some really subtle interactions in this game, and you have to be paying attention to them. I'm sure they become second nature, but I'm glad I just thought about that again. I read that the miss result did something interesting, and I couldn't quite remember what it was, but I thought there was an initiative change, and it wasn't just on a miss there was an initiative change, but if the active task force, which was this one, has an intel marker, which it gained placing its last trajectory there, an initiative changes hands. So that means that the initiative comes back to us, the German player, and we make a weather dice roll. We go to 3, good weather. So I want to do a couple of things here. I want to get a trajectory out of there so that we're not so vulnerable to those French ships, and I want to time lapse up here so that I can get out of this, get past this intel marker and break out through the cruisers that are guarding the openings to the Atlantic there. When I have the initiative though, and I'm in a spot with a rendezvous marker, we get to roll on the rendezvous table. I don't think it's optional, I think we kind of have to do it. So let's make that die roll and see what it says, because that's going to be interesting and may affect what we want to do. So in good weather, we roll a d6. We've got a 6. In good weather, d6, 6, E. That says remove the rendezvous marker. If good weather, also remove an evasive manoeuvres marker from the German task force if it has one. Well, we just spent it to dodge that French attack. So we just removed the rendezvous marker, and that's gone. Okay. And so that has nothing to do with the initiative. The fueling check doesn't change the initiative as far as I can tell. You maintain initiative after the check unless otherwise noted. Okay, great. So now what do we want to do? When does the game end? It ends when there are 2 or fewer rendezvous markers remaining and the Germans have no task forces in play. It may also end. It may also end when certain British events occur. Okay. Well, where can we complete? We have to try and get back to Wilhelmshaven or Kiel. Certain events allow us to complete in South America, and that would be great, but we pick those up from these rendezvous markers. So we just failed there. We can also complete in Murmansk, which is up over here, and if we do, we have to roll on a table to lose, well, where we could lose victory points, or things could happen, bad things could happen, because the Russians might not take kindly on us turning up in their ports. They may use it for some sort of shenanigans, political capital or whatever. But we can try and complete in Murmansk rather than try and run back if there are scary looking complications to getting back to Kiel or Wilhelmshaven. Anyway, what do we want to do? We know we want to pass here, but we probably want to all pass so that we can use our superpower again from Raider. And we also want to try and pick up an opportunity to snaffle this convoy down here, even though the French are close. So we are going to lay a trajectory first out of here and into here, and I think we'll come down into here and do a naval search. Well, will we do a naval search, or will we just pass and not use Raider's ability, because I don't necessarily want to pass at that point. I think I probably want to get I want to get through this blockade and with that intel marker office, so I want to pass with the Graf Spee actually. And I don't want to pass down here because I don't necessarily want to be stationed down here and easily detectable by that scary looking French fleet, because it may come looking for us again. It's quite likely to come looking for us again. So yeah, let's pass with the Graf Spee then. Let's just do a pass action and give the initiative back to the British and see what happens. And that, because of our intel limit with a medium speed, allows us, we will invoke intel limit, and that allows us to remove a 2 segments and an intel marker. So we can get rid of that dangerous intel marker and those 2 segments, and now we can officially claim that we've broken out with the Graf Spee into the North Sea, because we're somewhere in there rather than trapped somewhere in there. So that's good. The initiative goes straight over to the British, and we'll make a die roll for the weather to see whether it changes. Nope, we're still on good weather. And now the British are going to make a roll to see what they want to do, and they are rolling a 2. And that's an A action. Let me read that off camera. Okay, the British are attempting to conduct an airstrike. They could have a go out of Scarpa Flow at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 segment trajectory of the Graf Spee, or out of Gibraltar, which is further, but it's only 3 segments. I think they'll do the Gibraltar airstrike. I'm just going to roll it out off camera and carry on unless something really nasty happens. Okay, here's the result of the British airstrike out of Gibraltar then. There was no damage done on the Deutschland, but it did pick up a contact marker, and because this British convoy helped coordinate the attack to add a +2 in good weather, and that also allows it to perform time-lapse at the end of the operation, which allowed it then to move out of this zone. So it's now up here, and now after that we vie for initiative. So let's just do a quick initiative roll, and we get a 3 and a 3. So the active player, that's the British, keeps the initiative on ties, and we move the initiative tally marker up 1. Let's give the British a quick roll to see what they're going to do next. They've rolled a 2. I believe that's another airstrike. That is another airstrike. And it makes sense that they're now going to try and attack the Deutschland. They've got nothing in here to coordinate with, but they've got planes to fly in here, +1 for the air support at 2 hexes, and +2 I think for the contact marker. Just check that. I think at medium speed it's a +2. Fairly sure that's correct. Yeah, it is. So they've got a +3 without the coordination against a 3 segment trajectory. They've rolled a 6 with a +3 is a 9 against 3. Let's have a look what that is on here. Our 1 to 4 table. A 9 would damage a slow target, and it keeps the contact marker. So no harm done to the ship, but this is dangerous around here. Now we perform time lapse with any of the British coordinating task forces, but there are none, and so we're going to vie for initiative again, and that is definitely British initiative again. We will move the German initiative tally up again, and we'll roll to see what they're going to do. A 3 is another airstrike. We'll carry on with these airstrikes out of Gibraltar then. We'll carry on harassing the Deutschland. So we'll note to ourselves that this is the target. We've got a +3 as we already know. And we've got a 7 + 3 is a 10. Is that a different result on the airstrike table? No, that's the same again. Contact marker and as damage on the slow ship. So we'll vie for initiative again. And this time, because the Germans have a +2 from the initiative tally, the initiative switches over to the Germans. We'll start racking up the British tally, and we'll make a weather change. Die roll, no change. Okay, let's have a think about the Germans, and I'll come back. I think I'm gonna come back where, you know, stop rolling out every action and just come back when we've got significant events from here on in. So after 2 naval searches, the Deutschland managed to pin down this convoy and has just made an engagement action. The British weren't able to seize the initiative. They've just rolled an engagement with a +4 because we've got a contact marker on a very slow task force. 7 rolled, +4 is an 11. That's a surprise result. What that lets us do is choose ranges that aren't all far, because we're faster than the task force, so we have to be in the far zone, but we can split the opposing force between the near and far zone. So we've left the Aurora light cruiser in the far zone and moved the convoy close to us. They don't get to fire back in the first round of battle, and they don't get to generate any smoke. Haven't been generating smoke for convoys because they can't, but the Aurora could technically have started, had this not been surprised. The British could have started with smoke obscuring their ships to try and minimise the risk. Here we've taken them by surprise. We're going to roll 2 dice +3 to try and hit that convoy, and that will do us. We've got a 5 + 3 is an 8. That is a miss. We've not managed to hit the convoy. That's a pity. So there's no other firing because it's a surprise round, so there's no firing back. So we're going to round 2. Actually, no, we go through the rest of round 1. Torpedo step, there's none of that. The manoeuvre step, slowest ships first. So the very slow convoy goes first, and we'll move into the far zone. The Lutzo goes next and has a choice, but I guess we'll move into the near zone. And then the Aurora goes last. Now it could move into the near zone and hope to get a torpedo shot off at us in round 3. Round 2 we'd be near and near, but they'd be risking getting absolutely blown out of the water with 2 ships at near range, which would be short range on the gunnery. On the other hand, we can only take 1 hit, and gunnery is simultaneous. They might quite fancy trying to damage us, and we've got to try and actually score a hit on the convoy, which we've not managed yet. I wonder if I think the AI rules say that the British in battle, if they're facing stuff like this, you know, if they're outgunned like this, I think it says they'll try and run away. Yeah, I can't find that, but right now. But I think the British, in the sort of spirit of the Battle of the River Plate, battle behaviour. Let's have a look. If the imaginary player is British, it will attempt to break away if it has a convoy or a damaged ship, or it does not have a battle cruiser or battleship, and the Germans have a battle cruiser or battleship. Well, there's a pocket battleship. A battleship, it's sort of like a super gunned heavy cruiser, really, isn't it? In the spirit of the River Plate, the Aurora will come forward and challenge the Lutzow. So the other option it's got is to lay some smoke, but it could challenge the Lutzow to fire at it rather than the convoy, and then see if it could get a torpedo shot off next round. Yeah, let's do that. So we now have some firing going on. Ships attack simultaneously, and we know what the Aurora's firing at. So we have to pick a target for the Lutzow. And that's an interesting question, isn't it? Let's fire at the Aurora at near against near, at close, at short range. So that's 2 dice plus 2. 2 dice plus 2 at the Aurora. 6 plus 2 is an 8. And that's not working for us. Okay, the Aurora is firing back with 2 dice, flat 2 dice, no modifier. So they need a 9. They get a 7, and the convoy does not have gunnery that will hit far against near. That's long range. They don't have any long range guns. Okay, we're going to round. That was round 2. We've got a torpedo step. No one's in the close range to launch. So we're going to manoeuvre step. The convoy. Convoy's as far away as it can be. The Lutzow doesn't want to get torpedoed now. This was risky, but we don't actually want to run the risk of being blown out of the water with torpedoes. So we're actually going to retreat to the far zone where the Aurora can't launch torpedoes at us. And the Aurora, satisfied with that, will back off and lay smoke in the manoeuvre phase, which it can do. So we'll drop smoke down in front of a couple of smoke counters down in front of here, and we'll move into the last round of battle. The Lutzow will fire at the convoy at this point. The convoy is very slow for +2. We've got +1 for gunnery, that's +3, -1 for the smoke, so we've got a net +2 on our die roll. And that's an 8 plus 2 is 10. And finally we score a hit. So we'll put a hit marker down on the convoy. And the convoy can't fire, but we have to take fire from the Aurora. It's firing through its own smoke, which is -1. And it has a -1 at extreme range. That's -2. Oh shit, I rolled 2 dice. This is at extreme range. I needed to roll 3 dice and take the lowest 2. So we got 5, 3, 3, which was 6, plus 2 is 8, and we didn't score a hit at all on the convoy. Sorry, messed that up. And the Aurora fires back at us with 3 dice, lowest 2, and it's got a -2. So let's hope they don't roll their best possible dice roll here. No, that's a grand total of 2 minus 2 is 0. You want to get a booby prize for a roll like that. Okay, that was a completely inconclusive battle there.
and having done 3 rounds of combat, we all go back onto the battle board. Right, I'm going to call it here in terms of filming, because this has now gone on for ages, and I might need to do a short wrap up or a longer wrap up. I have no idea how much longer this is going to go on for.